What if I told you that you could once walk on dry land from Britain to mainland Europe? Or that, despite being home to some of the roughest and busiest shipping lanes on Earth, its average depth is so shallow that the Eiffel Tower would easily stick out above the waves. Welcome to the North Sea, a body of water often envisioned as just a cold, empty gray abyss, but one that is actually a flooded prehistoric world and the economic engine of Northern Europe. So here are 15 incredible geography facts you never knew about the North Sea. When we think of oceans and seas, we usually picture abyssal depths and terrifying trenches, but the North Sea defies this expectation completely. Despite covering an impressive 570,000 square kilometers between the UK and mainland Europe, it behaves more like a flooded plain than a deep ocean abyss. In fact, its average depth is just 94 meters. To put that into perspective, if you dropped the Eiffel Tower into the middle of the North Sea, more than 2/3 of it would stick out above the waves. By comparison, the neighboring Atlantic Ocean plunges to an average depth of nearly 4,000 meters. This extraordinary shallowness is the defining characteristic of the North Sea, influencing everything from its violent, choppy wave patterns during winter storms to its incredible biological productivity. Smack in the center of the North Sea lies one of the most fascinating underwater features in Europe, the Dogger Bank. This massive submerged plateau stretches over 17,600 square kilometers, making it larger than the entire US state of Connecticut. But what makes the Dogger Bank truly remarkable is how close it sits to the surface. In some areas, the water above this vast sandbank is astonishingly shallow, measuring just 15 to 30 meters deep. The bank itself is essentially a massive pile of glacial debris, sand, gravel, and clay bulldozed into the center of the sea by colossal ice sheets during the last ice age. Today, this shallow, sunlit plateau is a biological hotspot. Because the nutrient-rich water is so thoroughly mixed by currents and penetrated by sunlight, phytoplankton blooms explosively here, transforming the Dogger Bank into one of the most vital fish nurseries on the planet. While the vast majority of the North Sea is defined by its shallow sandy bottom, there's one dramatic exception hidden beneath the waves, the Norwegian Trench. Hugging the southern and western coastlines of Norway, this massive underwater valley violently interrupts the flat continental shelf. The trench is a sprawling, deep-water channel that reaches depths of over 700 meters in the Skagerrak Strait. This geologic feature was carved out over millions of years by massive glaciers scouring the bedrock before retreating at the end of the Pleistocene epoch. The trench acts as a crucial marine highway, funneling dense salty Atlantic water deep into the North Sea while allowing lighter, brackish Baltic water to flow out near the surface. This deep abyss creates a completely different ecosystem from the rest of the North Sea, providing a haven for deep water species that couldn't survive in the sunlit shallows just a few miles away. The North Sea isn't just a static body of water. It's a chaotic, dynamic mixing bowl where two completely different maritime systems collide. From the north and the English Channel in the south, the powerful, warm, and highly saline currents of the Atlantic Ocean sweep into the basin. Meanwhile, from the east, the Baltic Sea continuously empties its cold, brackish, low salinity water through the Skagerrak Strait. When these two opposing forces meet in the shallow arena of the North Sea, the result is a perpetual churning action. The heavier Atlantic water pushes beneath the lighter Baltic runoff, creating complex currents and powerful upwellings. This constant turbulence pulls essential nutrients from the seafloor all the way up to the sunlit surface. And this oceanic collision is the exact reason why the North Sea is so incredibly fertile, sustaining massive populations of plankton that form the base of an enormous marine food web. If you were to take a boat tour around the perimeter of the North Sea, you might think you had visited two completely different planets. The geologic forces that shaped its borders created a stunning study in contrasts. In the north, particularly along the coasts of Norway and Scotland, the landscape is defined by verticality and ancient ice. Here, massive glaciers carved deep, jagged fjords, leaving behind towering, rocky cliffs that plunge straight down into the deep, cold water. But as you travel south towards Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands, the topography geography flattens out entirely. The southern coast is an endless horizontal expanse of sandy beaches, sprawling mudflats like the Wadden Sea, and wide, lazy river estuaries. This stark contrast exists because the heavy ice sheets of the last glaciation scoured the northern rocks bare, while depositing all of the pulverized sand, silt, and clay southward, permanently softening the bottom half of the map. At this point, I think it's pretty clear that the North Sea is a vast, complex system that is ever-changing. And recently, I launched a brand new geography community called The Bite. And to manage its complex, ever-changing systems without losing my mind, I'm relying on today's sponsor, Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one management software that brings all of your business applications together onto a single, centralized platform. Instead of juggling a dozen disconnected external tools to run The Bite, Odoo's applications are fully integrated and communicate seamlessly with each other. For example, when a new member signs up for The Bite, that action is directly linked to my CRM, mailing list, and accounting. It automatically updates everything in real time, preventing errors and completely eliminating the need for manual data entry. The user interface is incredibly simple and intuitive, making it easy to automate repetitive tasks so that I can focus on work that actually matters, like researching these videos and writing new deep dive articles for the community. Plus, it's completely scalable. As The Bite grows, I can easily add new applications to fit my needs, and Odoo even automatically adjusts for local taxes, currencies, and regulations. And the best part is the value. The first Odoo application you use is free for life, which includes unlimited hosting and support. And if you want to expand and use the rest of their suite, access to all available applications start at just $24.90 a month. So check out the link in the description to streamline your operations with Odoo today. And don't forget to come join us over at The Bite while you're down there. Thanks to Odoo for supporting the show. Now let's get back to the rough and wild North Sea. It's hard to imagine, but the North Sea as we know it today is a relatively recent addition to the world map. For thousands of years during the last ice age, sea levels were significantly lower because so much of the Earth's water was locked up in massive ice sheets. During this time, Britain wasn't an island at all. It was seamlessly connected to mainland Europe by a vast, undulating expanse of habitable terrain known to modern archaeologists as Doggerland. This wasn't just a barren bridge of dirt. It was a thriving, fertile landscape crisscrossed by lazy rivers, dotted with freshwater lakes, and covered in dense woodland. Doggerland was a prehistoric paradise, teeming with wildlife like mammoths, red deer, and wild boar. More importantly, it was home to thousands of Mesolithic human hunter-gatherers who built settlements, hunted in the marshes, and completely dominated the very land that now lies under freezing ocean. The demise of Doggerland is one of prehistory's most dramatic, catastrophic events. As the global climate warmed and the colossal ice sheets began to melt, global sea levels steadily rose. The vast plains of Doggerland were slowly swallowed by the encroaching waters over thousands of years, shrinking the once massive land bridge into an archipelago of marshy islands. But the final, fatal blow came around 6200 BCE in the form of a cataclysmic natural disaster. Off the coast of Norway, an enormous chunk of the continental shelf collapsed in an event known as the Storegga Slide. This underwater landslide was so massive that it triggered a towering tsunami that raced across the ocean. When this wall of water slammed into the low-lying remnants of Doggerland, it completely inundated the remaining islands. The surviving hunter-gatherers were wiped out or forced to flee to higher ground, completely severing Britain from the continent forever. Because the North Sea is essentially a flooded prehistoric landscape, its seafloor is an accidental, perfectly preserved museum of the Mesolithic era. The fishermen who drag their heavy trawling nets across the bottom aren't just catching cod and haddock. They frequently haul up astonishing pieces of human history. The phenomenon first gained global attention in 1931, when a trawler operating near the Dogger Bank pulled up a solid lump of peat. Embedded inside was an intricately carved, barbed antler harpoon dating back 10,000 years. Since that discovery, the North Sea has yielded a bizarre and incredible harvest. Dutch fishermen routinely find the massive fossilized teeth of woolly mammoths, the skulls of extinct cave lions, primitive stone axes, and even the skeletal remains of the ancient humans who once walked there. To this day, commercial fishing crews serve as unwitting underwater archaeologists, slowly pulling the lost world of Doggerland back to the surface. Long before the invention of modern shipping containers and megaports, the North Sea functioned as the economic nerve center of medieval Europe. Beginning in the late 12th century, a powerful alliance of merchant guilds and market towns known as the Hanseatic League took total control of these rough waters. For hundreds of years, the North Sea was their private superhighway. 30 wooden sailing ships called cogs braved the violent gales to transport vital commodities: timber, fur, and wax from the Baltics, salt from Germany, and high-quality wool from England. By dominating the North Sea trade routes, the Hanseatic League amassed staggering wealth and political power, practically functioning as an independent maritime empire. They established fortified trading posts in cities like London and Bergen, standardized European maritime law, and left a lasting cultural imprint on the region. The Roman Empire was legendary for its military engineering, sprawling infrastructure, and its seemingly unstoppable expansion. Yet, when they reached the shores of the North Sea, the greatest empire of the ancient world finally met a geographic rival that it could not tame. The Romans began exploring the North Sea coast around 12 BCE, initially using the waterways to launch naval invasions into Britain. But to the Mediterranean-blooded Romans, this northern ocean was a terrifying alien environment. Unlike the calm and predictable Mediterranean Sea, the North Sea was plagued by freezing temperatures, violent gales, blinding fogs, and massive tidal shifts that frequently breached their war galley. While they established forts along the coast and successfully occupied Britain, they never attempted to establish maritime dominance over the North Sea itself. The brutal waters acted as a natural, impenetrable wall that effectively capped the northernmost expansion of Roman influence in Europe. For most of human history, the wealth of the North Sea came strictly from the fish swimming in its waters. But in the late 1960s, everything changed when geologists discovered massive reserves of fossil fuels buried deep beneath the ocean floor. The discovery of the Ekofisk oil field in 1969, followed by the enormous Forties field in 1970, transformed the North Sea into one of the most lucrative energy frontiers on the planet. This wasn't just any oil, it was Brent crude, a high-quality, sweet, light petroleum that is exceptionally easy to refine into gasoline. Extracting it required unprecedented engineering, forcing companies to build gargantuan platforms capable of withstanding colossal winter waves. The risk paid off spectacularly. The sudden influx of petrodollars fundamentally reshaped the modern economies of both the United Kingdom and Norway, funding public infrastructure, generating millions of jobs, and establishing Norway's massive sovereign wealth fund. As the world frantically pivots away from fossil fuels, the North Sea is undergoing a second massive energy revolution. This time, the resource isn't beneath the sea floor, but directly above it. The geography of the North Sea makes it the perfect laboratory for offshore wind energy. Because the water is so unusually shallow, engineers can easily anchor towering wind turbines directly to the seabed. Above the surface, the sea acts as a giant wind tunnel, providing incredibly strong, uninterrupted gales year-round. Today, the horizon is dotted with massive spinning forests of steel. The United Kingdom, Germany, and the Netherlands have built some of the largest offshore wind farms in existence here, capable of powering millions of homes. The ambition is only growing, with plans underway to construct artificial energy islands right in the middle of the sea, serving as central distribution hubs to pump green electricity straight into the European grid. There's a famous local proverb that states, "God created the world, but the Dutch created the Netherlands." Look at a topographic map, and you'll understand why. Roughly a third of the Netherlands sits below the high tide mark of the North Sea. If nature were left to its own devices, major cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam would be entirely underwater. Instead, the Dutch have spent almost a millennium engaged in a slow, calculated war against the ocean. Using a breathtaking system of massive dikes, storm surge barriers, and relentless pumping systems, they have literally walled off the North Sea. They didn't just stop the flooding, they aggressively drained shallow coastal bays to create polders, vast tracts of incredibly fertile, reclaimed land built right on top of the old sea floor. It's arguably the greatest feat of human geographic engineering in modern history. If you think navigating rush hour traffic on a modern highway is stressful, try driving a colossal cargo ship through the North Sea. Despite its size, this body of water is one of the most congested and heavily regulated maritime spaces on Earth. It serves as the primary maritime gateway for the economic powerhouses of Northern Europe. At any given moment, the sea is choked with a chaotic mix of traffic. Huge container ships, heading towards megaports like Rotterdam or Antwerp, must weave through a treacherous obstacle course. They're forced to share tight shipping lanes with aggressive commercial fishing fleets, slow-moving ferries, and towering stationary hazards like oil rigs and sprawling offshore wind farms. Add in the sea's shifting sandbanks, brutal winter storms, and dense coastal fogs, and the North Sea becomes a terrifying logistical puzzle that requires incredibly precise radar tracking and highly trained maritime pilots to navigate safely. The North Sea has sustained coastal populations for thousands of years, and its secret lies entirely in its shallow depth. Because the seabed is so close to the surface, sunlight can easily penetrate the water column, reaching the nutrient-rich sediments swirling at the bottom. This perfect combination of sunlight and churning nutrient-dense water creates an explosive breeding ground for phytoplankton. This microscopic plant life forms the foundation of one of the most robust and highly productive marine food webs in the entire world. The massive plankton blooms feed vast shoals of small fish, which in turn attract millions of larger predators. For centuries, this biologic goldmine has made the North Sea a premier destination for commercial fishing fleets. The basin produces staggering yields of cod, haddock, mackerel, plaice, and herring, securing the food supply for Northern Europe and deeply embedding fishing culture into the identity of every country that borders it. The North Sea is definitely one of the weirdest bodies of water. From its wide opening in the north to its tiny funnel in the south, it's safe to say that without the North Sea, Europe would look and feel very different. Just like it did when Doggerland was still around. Hey, come join me over at my geography community site, thebite.co, where we have ad-free videos, exclusive articles, and just one big community of fellow geography fans. The link is in the description below. I hope you enjoyed learning all about the North Sea. If you did, be sure to check out this video all about Germany's empty northwest coast. Thanks for watching. See you next time.